My name is Shakira binti Jaudin. My number matric is 07 DTP 19F1041. 4.0 Tools and Die. What is tool and die? Tool and die makes a highly skilled scrap people working in the manufacturing industry. Variation on the name include toolmaker, die maker, mold maker, or tool jig and die maker depending on which area of contraction or industry an individual work in. This is a link YouTube part 1, part 2 and have a reference.
4.1 Discuss die cutting operation. The fundamentals of die cutting operation including plain blanking operation consists of a punch going through the material during the working stroke and on the return stroke. The material is left with the punch and it is removed by a stripped blade. Punching is the operation consisting of simple hole punching. Punching is the strip and the strip is the workpiece. Lancing is a press operation in which a single line cut or slit is made one part way across the strip stroke without removing any metal. Cutting off and cutting is cut-off operation. Separate the work material along straight line in a single line cut. Notching a metal cutting process used on sheet metal or thin brass tube, sometimes on angle section or tube. Shaving is a secondary operation, usually following punching, in which the surface of the previously cut edge is finished smoothly to accurate dimension. Trimming is the shearing of excess metal from the head configuration of complex shape so as to obtain the final design and specification. Action in punch and die operation. The punch contains the workpiece material supported by the die and a pressure build-up occurs. When the elastic limit of the work material is exceeding, the material being to flow plastically. The punch penetrates the work material and the blank is displaced into the die opening a corresponding amount. A radius is from 1 on the top edge of the hole and the bottom edge of the blank according to figure comprising of the slot material against the wall of the die opening bushing a outline of the edge of the blank according to figure. At the same time, the plastic flow pull the material around the punch, causing a corresponding bushing in the work material. Further continuation of the punching pressure then start fracture at the cutting edge of the punch and die. Under ideal cutting condition, the fracture will meet and the remaining portion of the slug edge will be broken away. A slight tensile bar will be formed along the top edge of the slug and the bottom edge of the material. Relationship between die clearance with the cutting action in punch and die operation. The clearance between each side of the punch and the die is normally expressed as percentage of the material thickness. The clearance provided between the punch and die depends largely upon the mechanical property of the material of the metal to be sheared and the operation being performed.
My name is Hafizan bin Kanim. My matrix number is 07 DTP1NF 1013. Expose the types of die in manufacturing process. Types of die in manufacturing process. Blanking dies. A cutting die that in conjunction with a blanking punch cuts out flat piece of stock. Second is piecing die. Piecing is a shearing process where a punch and die are used to create a hole in sheet metal or a plate. Next is bending die. The bend die is a tool or mold which allows tube to be bent around it and define the result shape of the bent tube. Forming die. A forming die is a manufacturing tool that presses material into specific shape, much like an industrial-sized stencil. Forming die are used in everything from creating sheet metal to pressing new government coin. Drawing die. Wire drawing is a metal working process used to reduce the cross-section of wire by pulling the wire through a single or series of drawing dies. Progressive die. A compound tool used in a punch press for performing several operations as drawing, punching, bending in a single movement or in as few as possible successive movement. Compound die. Compound die produce a complete blank in one station at every stroke of the press. Basically, these die perform one or more operations at the same time. For instance, they can blank, cut the outer form, and pierce, cut the inner form of a shape simultaneously. Combination die. Combination die are used in workstation to handle a combination of process. In this die, the cutting of the metal sheet is combined with other actions such as drawing or bending.
4.3 Complete the die designing. Die block, punch and punch plate, pilot, stripper and pressure bed. Force mechanism involved in die operation. Blank size, bending method, bending allowance and bending pressure. Percent reduction, dig through, throwing force.
4.4 About perform 3D design of blanking dies. The first is design a blanking part. This is example. Then a detailed drawing of the blanking dies. Next, the example of the blanking dies. And the last is example and explode drawing of the blanking dies.
Lastly is describing the sustainable element to increase tool life and awareness of environment. Control the heat. During the cutting process, the friction of the chip removal generates heat. Over time, this heat can wear away your tools. For this reason, it's important to control the generated heat as much as possible. A coolant system utilizing CO2 can help control the amount of heat generated during the cutting process, which will minimize the damage done to the tool. Design tool properly. One of the best ways to ensure a tool is long-lasting is to ensure that it has a proper design. Cutting tools need to achieve high metal removal rates with minimum stress on the tool. This tool needs to be able to handle the stress of simultaneous, multi-directional movement. A properly designed tool will be able to hold up to the stresses of the job without being damaged.